Good morning or good afternoon. Welcome to episode 9 of AI Business Asia podcast. I'm your host, Leo Jiang. As a former Chief Digital Officer of Huawei and having experience of building one of the largest startup ecosystem in Asia, I had the experience and insight to see how corporate transform over the years and how startup fit into this transformation journey. So our podcast is to bring you the top and most insightful voice from both AI and business world. Today, I had the pleasure to welcome Joon-Seong, Senior Managing Director of Accenture. He holds a prominent position in both Accenture Southeast Asia Executive Committee and Global Leadership Council, spearheaded both Center for Advanced AI for APAC, as well as data and AI business for Southeast Asia. So welcome to join our podcast, Joon-Seong. I really like you to maybe start introducing yourself and give a warm, nice feeling about who you are and let the audience get to know yourself a bit better.
Thank you so much, Leo, for having me. What a pleasure to be on your podcast. As you said, I am from Accenture. I spent my entire career in consulting, 28 years and counting. So at present, I'm leading the APAC Center for Advanced AI team and also the Data AI Southeast Asia business based here in Singapore. And throughout my last 28 years of career, I specialize in data and AI primarily. And my work has brought me to various places outside of Singapore, in Southeast Asia, of course, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. These are all my markets that I operate in. But I also spend a lot of time in China, in Australia, UK, and across the world a little bit. And it's been exciting to see how AI evolved over time. I think there was like small data to big data, and then from analytics to AI. So I've been through the whole journey and the ups and downs, and seeing how AI progress. So a pleasure to be with you, Leo, today, and happy to share my thoughts and experiences with your audience.
Fantastic. I think that's going to be very interesting. I'm really looking for this conversation, especially with what Accenture is seeing, with your presence and experience. But just before getting to that topic, I really want to talk a little bit about Accenture. I did a bit of background. Obviously, everybody knows Accenture if you're from information technology world. If I'm not wrong, it is the only listed company or listed consulting company in the world. Is that right to say that?
We have a lot of different competitors. So some of them are listed, some of them are not listed because they compete with consulting firms from, I think, in a way, cradle to grave, right? So it's from strategy consulting firms, the boutique strategy consulting firms who are not listed to like some of the more established ones, so end to end. So yeah. So there's a picture of that, Leo.
Yeah, because I remember this conversation with Apollo, and then he mentioned a lot of history of Accenture. I find it fascinating. Obviously, I'm also from IT. I've been consulting. Accenture has always come across as not a strategy consulting, not solution consulting, but a combination of everything. And it has a very prestige brand, and it's obviously everywhere. And I think population-wise, you guys having nearly 1 million people or something?
Now we have like 750,000, if I'm not mistaken. I think
just crazy, right? My God. Yeah. How do you feel being one of the 750,000 people? You've been there for 20 years, right? How was it like?
No, I think what obviously when I joined the firm in 1996, I think I vaguely remember we have less than 100,000, something like that, right? So we have grown very big, and I think if I go back to the core of what we do, right, which is to help our clients, right, is to focus on making them more successful, is to help them drive change and reinventions. And I think the scale that we have actually allow us to bring a lot of different capabilities and expertise locally, globally to our clients. I think that's the most fascinating part, because after all, our work is all about our clients, right? We are obsessed with our client success, and the scale gives us the ability, as I mentioned, to bring strategy, consulting, technology, and even managed services operations capabilities to our client. And the ability to do that is actually very rewarding, because you get to see how the strategy that you develop translate into executions and impact, and to actually do something to actually hit the bottom line and the top line of the clients. And that's, if you ask me to summarize, the most rewarding part of my 28 years of career is to see those impact made to our clients.
That's very, very, I mean, I wouldn't say every company offer that kind of in-depth and width of exposure. So that's certainly been one of the privilege of being Accenture. So being such established companies, I suppose anything you do requires a lot of strategic thinking, especially if you're investing something big. And I think something really caught my eye, I think it was this year, is seeing Accenture is investing $3 billion. Again, it's $3 billion USD into generative AI. Obviously, it's hot, right? Like, we all know it's hot. But $3 billion is a gigantic number. What were the key factors that drove that decision?
I think there are quite a few factors. I think if you look back at Accenture history, if I go back to maybe 7, 8 years ago, right, we created Accenture Digital, right? At the time, I think we saw this big digital wave coming, and Accenture had the foresight to make significant pivots to uplift the entire Accenture as a company to be a digital company, to help our clients become digital, right? To digitalize and to run digital business. And that was like 7, 8 years ago. Then again, now we are seeing this huge AI wave, that we have been doing AI for the last 2 decades and even more. But this time is different because the rise of GenAI, obviously, the rise of ChatGPT. We've been doing GenAI before the rise of ChatGPT, by the way, but this is not at the same scale because of the maturity of the technology now. And we see now that GenAI as a new digital. So we very quickly assemble the leadership and convince, obviously, our stakeholders and our board that this is the time to make a strategic pivot, and because AI is a new digital, and we need the entire firm to focus on driving this very critical technological evolution that is so pervasive in terms of impact and very profound in terms of what it can do for businesses and how it can reinvent businesses. And therefore, this bold decisions and investment of the $3 billion. And we have done this before, right, Leo? I think this is like, in case you wonder, like, we have made a lot of these strategic choices in a very bold way and in a very swift way, because in many ways, the client expect us to be leading from the front, right? We are digital and technology native companies, and we have to advise our clients on the same. And therefore, it's a very logical. And of course, I think we have the first mover advantage, and we think that we are leading the market in this space. So very happy to share more, right, with you.
Sure. Can I ask you, obviously ChatGPT hit the world, stormed the world rather, at the beginning of 2023. When was this decision manifest?
Well, I think it's around that time. I think I got to trace back a little bit, right, to get my facts right, for your audience. But I think it was around that period of time we saw the huge potential, because GenAI can mimic human, right? So it's the closest technology that we can see that can really mimic human, and that we saw that the power of the technology, and being technology native, I think is very natural for us to then make sure that we ride on this wave. I will have to fact check that and get back to you on the timing, but I remember that we assembled the team very quickly. And in fact, we created a GenAI COE almost immediately. And the GenAI COE is a global construct that we assemble some of the best talent we have, our top data scientists, top AI engineers from every part of the world, and come together and look at the technology and see how we can help our clients. And that was like, apart from the investment, I think we leveraged the talent that we have and everything that we have done in AI, and trying to then see how we can progress on that. That's how critical this was for us, and will continue to be critical for us, obviously.
And is that a small, I guess, like a swarm team that going into this new territory with a bit of skills and experience in the past?
Absolutely.
And then explain it to, and is that a spearhead that help Accenture to see better clarity of what GenAI can do, and expose that to your clients? which you mentioned manifest to this investment decision?
Exactly. We quickly came to the conclusion after assembling this GenAI COE team that was a bit of the ABC of what we do that we can do, right? What is ABC, right? In short, A is the kind of work that we can help our clients to reinvent their businesses using GenAI. So that's A, right? So it's actually really helping our clients using GenAI, helping them implement GenAI, large language models, so on and so forth. But there's also other use cases like B. The type B is where we use GenAI ourselves to help deliver our services. You think about the pre-GenAI days, Accenture was already using a lot of AI and robotics automation to help us, for example, deliver system implementation, to help us run our managed services, our operations for our clients. And we see tremendous opportunities to change the way we deliver our services. Imagine the use of GenAI to do test automation, to do system development overall, right? So that's a type B. The type C is really where we can apply GenAI on ourselves, right? We have very quickly identified 300 use cases for ourselves, anything from HR to marketing to sales processes and all that, that we realize that we can be the best credential for the world because we are such a large company. There are many places where we can apply GenAI ourselves. These days, we have an HR bot reminding us what we need to do. So on the HR processes that doesn't require, frankly, a human involved directly right in the process. So the ABC of it is something that we identified very quickly. And so we fired up basically all the cylinders, right? One is to the client, one is how to deliver our services, one is how to apply those use cases on ourselves.
Right. Sorry, could you just break it down what A and B and C stands for?
So basically, it's not an acronym that it can be a 1, 2, 3 or A or B or C. It's not an acronym.
Okay. I thought there was
Type A means that we deliver client services, right? AI client services, just like typically what we do, consulting services for our clients. We help them implement AI, which is what we do a lot. B is basically we use AI to deliver services in a different way, in a competitive way, using a GenAI powered approach. C is more like GenAI applying on our own corporate functions, the way we run our business.
Got it. Could you, since you're already talking about use cases, could you share one case study of how Accenture is, or even yourself, your team, is applying GenAI or LLM to solve a real world problem that resonate with you personally most?
I have quite a few, but I like the one that I think our team did for BMW in North America a lot. And so the long story short was that we were engaged to develop this knowledge base. This knowledge base has the ability to support sales, service, and maintenance inquiries, right? For example, a salesperson can respond to customers' inquiries effectively by referencing this GenAI-powered knowledge engine, so that he or she can effectively answer all customer inquiries. Now, the same knowledge engine has been built to actually support service as well, right? I think about you have a case where the customer is calling you regarding service inquiries and to inquire about, for example, right, I'm just making up parts, for example, or availability of some parts, for example, that in this case, they can reference the knowledge base very quickly. This is one of the early adopters of GenAI, and the productivity improvement is significant because immediately they can see that there's consistency in terms of how the inquiries, for example, are being addressed, right? And the productivity in terms of the ability to respond very quickly to questions from customers. So that's one of the examples that is very interesting. There's one other example that we did, which unfortunately we cannot name, was the according to Microsoft, is one of the very first in the world GenAI powered chatbot for a client, right? For a telecom client. It's a very interesting use case for us because a lot of times that we have seen use cases being applied for internal processes to augment human. But in this particular case, in this telco, this is using GenAI to actually engage your end customers, the end consumers, by putting GenAI in the chatbot. Now, can you imagine, the kind of safeguards we need to put in place, right, to make sure that the GenAI doesn't have, right? You have all these issues and all that. So there's a lot of learning. We were partnering our clients. In this case, there's a lot of learning from cases like that.
I mean, if you just put it like that, people will think, well, that isn't that so easy? Like, I had ChatGPT to my own. Like, I use other chatbots, so many chatbots these days. But if you put that into enterprise settings, it's not like having a chat for fun. It's actually having a chat for real world problems.
Exactly.
It could be a telephone line problem, it could be a bill problems. And if you say something, just nonsense, then there's a collateral damage to the brand. Could you share a bit more? Like, I think that what the audience really appreciate is understand where this use case is trying to solve. Are there any specific things that you felt people can benefit from learning? Like, for example, like, if you say there's a lot of hallucination problems, how did you solve those hallucination problems? And the audience say, if you could also explain what hallucination is. Not to say this is the one thing you want to explain, but is there any more next layer down specifics that you can share?
So I think there are two parts to your question, Leo. I will talk about the exciting opportunities, and then I'll talk about a little bit more about the chatbot specifically, right? I think if I look at the where we are today, right? In general, I think most companies are piloting GenAI, right? And they're using GenAI primarily for productivity improvement, right? Looking at how they can develop a knowledge base to support their employees to augment humans, and they're looking at how do you shorten processes, right? And make, say, for example, in banking, the KYC process a bit simpler. So it's a bit of a process re-engineering, process reimaginations using GenAI in order to drive productivity. But there's tremendous opportunity in the space of customer engagement. If you remember the story that I just shared about the telco using chatbot, if you think about the way that we are, as consumers, are consuming information today, and we go to the website, for example, we search for information, so we go through the menu items and all that. Oftentimes, we don't find the answers we want, right? Then we ended up calling the contact center and try to find the answers to the questions. Now, we call this a librarian approach. The librarian approach means that, think about navigation bar, think about the UX design that present to you in that form of app or web, right? But think about it for a second, Leo, right? What ChatGPT brought to us is not just a new language model, a new prompting capabilities. It actually gives us an opportunity to change the way we interact with applications and businesses. Now, more and more consumers are now expecting the ChatGPT-like experience when they interact with customers. When they interact with enterprises. You want to go to a website, you want to go to a place when you interact with the enterprises and businesses, you want the answers immediately. You don't want to spend all your time trying to navigate the different screens and all that. You just want to get to the point. As a case in point that have this is my personal experience, right? I had to go and find out from my bank how do I, for example, link the account to one of my trading accounts. But I had a hard time trying to find that using the typical website, and the chatbot wasn't smart enough to understand my problem, and it pointed me to other websites. So long story short, now the new approach is moving from the librarian approach to the advisor type approach. Advisor type means think about ChatGPT. You go to a chatbot, you go to a telco, banking, consumer website, you want to get your answers immediately, right? I think that's how we are shifting from the librarian approach to the advisor approach. Now, long story short, there's tremendous opportunities to really reinvent the way every enterprise interact with customer and consumer using the new advisor approach. And this is like a white space out there, complete white space out there, right? You look at a lot of the enterprises, they're still using very traditional rule-based chatbot, and this is not smart enough to answer questions and all that. So I think to answer the first part of the question is a bit long-winded, but I wanted your audience to understand that there's a major shift in terms of the new experience model that's now enabled by GenAI with the ChatGPT based capabilities, ChatGPT-like capabilities. And of course, with that, then I answer your second question, which is hallucinations. Hallucination is basically, a creation, an imagination created by the language model, right? Not based on facts, but based on imaginations. And this is tricky because you have, if you have read, like for example, in one of the case studies, Air Canada has some challenges. Previously, you can Google them, you can find out more about the Air Canada stories. And basically, the chatbot has hallucinated and have a bit of an issue with customer who are dependent, who actually interacted with the chatbot. The chatbot advised wrongly, and Air Canada had to go to court because of that, right? So as a result, has some hallucination, and therefore there are many things that have to be put in place to safeguard enterprise capabilities in this space, especially consumer-facing chatbots. In this case, I wouldn't drain everything, but it starts from, for example, how you train your language model, right, to point to the right knowledge base, right? How do you put in guardrails, right? Toxicity tests, for example, that has to be part of the implementation approach, for example. So there are all these measures, and of course, this whole responsible AI practices that has to be wrapped around as part of everything that we do, right? That in the past, responsible AI governance is a bit like a lip service, right? Because it's not regulated. But now, right, more and more that companies have to pay serious attention because there's now very serious implications in terms of, in the case of like hallucination is just one dimension. There are many other dimensions that, like in terms of the use of data and the use of language models and how that's potentially exposing you to some of the legal implications. That these are all the things that is part of the topics of AI governance and responsible AI. So I thought I'd put a plug there, Leo, because I think it's important to think from that perspective. Let me pause here first.
Yeah, so I think, the hallucination problem is known for quite some time, actually from day one, and people trying to solve them differently by injecting more facts-based, knowledge base or tune down the temperature. But responsible AI it's probably something, and AI safety is definitely on the prominent position. I don't know if you've seen the news in California. There was a boy who committed suicide due to the experience with, I think it was character AI. That was blow up pretty big. So these chat capability, rather to your point, like let's embrace this new way of interacting with technology because they are mimicking us. But at the same time, expose us to something that we haven't experienced before is how close this persona can be like human, and how do we guardrail this? That surely is I think in the top priority of a large enterprise. Unlike some of the startups that we're working with, which is still very focused on getting things done. So I think the responsibility lies with you guys. It's pretty big.
Exactly. You're going to build in responsible AI or AI safety by design, right? It's not an afterthought, right? It has to be from the very start because whether it is anything from data, potential data biases, right, that gives rise to potentially misuse of data to like model biases to then hallucinations and all that. Because the topic of responsible AI was there before even GenAI, and even that I think companies are struggling to manage it properly. The GenAI brought new perspectives and sense of urgency to enterprises because of the power of what it can do, right? And exactly to your point, is that all the safeguards are enterprises' responsibilities.
Yeah. All right. So, as you said, there's a huge white space. I guess the white space also brought profitabilities, and I think the announcement from your CEO, I think it was Q1 2024, already showing, I think it was 10 billion, I think revenue from generative AI. It sounds like you guys are already making.
3 billion. Yeah,
sorry, 2 billion.
For GenAI, 3, 2 or 3. I'll double check that.
Okay, I'll double check. So apologies for getting the number wrong. But is that what you guys expected? Like, since you already seen this white space, and What's your
I think,
anticipation?
yeah, but I think we are seeing huge demand from our clients. I think that's for sure. And I think the 2-3 billion is still obviously as a start, but we are obviously ahead of our competitions, we believe, with the progress we've made, and mainly because of as I mentioned earlier, that the opportunity for us to do the A, B, and C, right? Because we can be the best credential because we apply a lot of AI on ourselves. So firstly, we see significant demand coming from our clients who are very interested to harness this technology, and that's why I think we have spent a lot of effort to try to leverage the investment that we made to develop assets, capabilities, upskill our talent to respond to this demand. And if you look at the year of 2023 was more of a year of experimentations where our clients were just doing pockets of stuff here and there. But some of the biggest and most strategic clients, like the likes of BBVA, for example, in Spain, which is one of the most admired digital bank, and it's one of the clients for a long time that they strategically scale these AI capabilities very quickly. So it's really beyond just piloting. It's going into scaling it and have very significant impact on the front to back, right? On the operations on the front end, using GenAI for front end for wealth advisory to the back end of how to improve the operations, for example. So Leo, is all driven by the client's demand that we are seeing here, and we are seeing more and more demand coming our way. And the mindset, therefore, Leo, is that which is I thought I put a plug here, is that now from piloting to scaling, and we see GenAI as not just another AI model, right, or not just another technology piece, right, that you install and deploy, right. We see this as an enterprise reinvention opportunity. This is like you can look at every single part of your organization, every single functions, and you can choose to reinvent the way that you do things. I give you the case in point, for example, that like even we look at ourselves, like how we do marketing, like Accenture, how we do marketing and communications. Now we have leveraged GenAI, develop agentic, using agentic architecture to create AI agents to help us perform our marketing tasks. And in fact, we have just rolled out ourselves to our marketing team, leveraging that. So again, going back to the topic, I may digress, but this is all driven by the potential of the technologies, and very, very excited about opportunities to help our clients to go beyond the piloting phase. So our hope is that you will see growth. In fact, a lot of growth beyond the numbers that you quoted, whatever the number is, and we see that it's going to be significant.
I think the latest reports is, I think the GenAI book. Well, so the new booking went up to 20.1 billion. The new generative AI booking reached 1 billion. So and you raise your quarter dividend.
Public domain. Yeah,
it is. And I'm looking at it right now. Like, feel like this is a good time to buy some Accenture stocks. This point is not to give you any advice in terms of buy or
I'll give you that advice.
Interesting. Just how you mentioned about agentic service in terms of pushing a marketing campaign or anything. Is there anything specific that you can share? Because that's something I personally look at quite deeply.
Yeah. No, I mean, yes, I think that a couple of things I can share, like, because I think very quickly we realized that the power of moving from, if I characterize that, the typical use of GenAI now, right, to the agentic, using the agentic capabilities. And Accenture, if you Google us, I think we launched just a couple of months ago this whole, what we call the AI Refinery approach, right? And platform. Now, there are a couple of dimensions to that. So the Accenture approach to AI Refinery is unique. It's proprietary to us. And basically, our view is that what make up the AI Refinery are the four main things. First is that every company needs a enterprise cognitive brain. Right? What it means is that how you leverage.
If I could just pause you for a second. So AI Refinery is a program, right? And that's a collaboration between
it's
Accenture
a trademark.
India.
Yeah, it's a trademark Accenture approach, unique approach, and that's backed by platforms and assets that we have, right? So it's not just the approach; it's the whole methodology and solution that we have that we
I
bring to
see.
our clients. Yeah. So it's called AI Refinery. Yeah. If you Google us, I
Okay.
think yeah, that information quite a bit. We've been
But it's a platform. It's a platform itself on its own, right? AI
Yeah, it's
refinery.
backed by a platform, it's backed by our assets, and it's a methodology, and it's
Okay.
also a framework, right? So there are quite a few things in here. Basically, it's our solution to our clients looking to reinvent their businesses, looking to drive GenAI outcomes
Yeah.
using this very unique approach that we have.
Okay. Could you
So
share more about this approach and the
of course, yeah,
capabilities?
yeah, getting that too. So in short, think about AI Refinery is made out of like four components, right? The first is the enterprise cognitive brain. Think about the data that you have now that has to go beyond just the structured to unstructured data, right? We need vector databases now to support GenAI, and we need to bring these documents that we have that we never really accessed in the past. Now bring that to the common data foundation, and then creating the smartness in there, right, by turning it into an enterprise cognitive brain. That's the first component, right? The second component is the agentic workforce, right? The agentic architecture is how do you turn uh, uh, the different processes, functions into AI agents that can either augment or work alongside with humans in this case. So agentic architecture is another component. The third component is the foundation model customization, because we all know that you cannot just take the whatever out of the box and then use it for enterprise purposes. You can use it for creating a poem or something, but not necessarily, right? For
Yeah.
enterprise, there needs to be a customization. And we have also the fourth one, which is what is very interesting asset that we created called model switchboard. The switchboard basically helps us benchmark against different language models and pick the most appropriate in terms of accuracy and in terms of cost, to then allow us to then say, switch to this model or that model based on the use cases and so forth. And so that for our clients, like they can benefit from the best, right, from
Mhm.
every provider out there. So these are the four key components. And when we launched AI Refinery, we work closely with NVIDIA. I think if you look at what we have in the public domain, is that because we saw the power of the NVIDIA platform in achieving what we just talked about, the agentic capabilities, right? The whole stack that NVIDIA provides to our clients, and working with us closely as a joint proposition. So you will see, you will read a lot about how our CEO our CEO Julie spent time with Jensen talking about it in media recently, and how we have been promoting and speaking to clients about this collaboration, because we see the power of the combination of the two. And so that's the platform, and we have built obviously assets that sits on these platforms to allow us to go to our clients. So it's not a vanilla sort of a stack, but it's something that we have already built assets on top. For example, we have pre-built 12 agents already, right? Some of these are super agents, utility agents, to allow us to then deploy to our clients very quickly. And just, I won't drain it too much, but I think that's to give you a flavor of the different things that, of course, we also work with other partners like the hyperscaler as well,
Yeah.
the Google, the AWS, and Azure, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Just on the immediate contribution to the refinery power, I suppose it's not just about providing you with the hardware. What is the strategic angle for NVIDIA in this partnership?
No, I think from NVIDIA's standpoint, I think they need a partner like Accenture, right? Not just from the perspective that we are a good SI, right, system integrator, but we are also advising clients strategically on reinvention that we talk about using the AI refinery approach, right? So from that perspective, and it's a win-win. they have
No,
a
but my
superior
question is, it's not, they're
yeah.
not necessarily selling the hardware to the client
Oh no, yeah,
through.
correct. It's with the software stack, correct. Their software
Exactly.
stack. It's not
Yeah, yeah,
selling
yeah.
the AI chips, and which they are
Right.
obviously already very good at, right? So this
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
sitting on top of that, and this is whole software stack, right? The
So
the
there's a
whole
software stack. Could
yes,
you be more
yes,
specific? What
yeah.
capability that NVIDIA
No,
contribute?
like they have a NIM framework, for example. They have the NVIDIA Omniverse, for example. They have the AI Foundry, for example, that the software stacks that enterprises can leverage. And for enterprises to leverage this, for example, the AI Foundry, they will need someone like Accenture to help implement that solution. So it's not just about installing the hardware, right?
Got it,
So
got it.
yeah, the AI Foundry, for example, is just one of them. Using the NIM framework that they have,
Right.
using the Omniverse that they have, these are all the applications that
Yeah.
and the NVIDIA provides. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, just on that point, so obviously NVIDIA is trying to expand beyond the hardware, but also into the software. They already built a very strong ecosystem, based on CUDA. And I guess these different software capabilities is going to further enhance their investment and the capability in AI in general. And from your standpoint, do you see competition for NVIDIA? Do you partner with the like of AMD and other chip makers, where you could see this become more sort of competitive landscape?
I guess I don't have any insights into what AMD and the likes are doing, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But so far, I think from if I look at NVIDIA has offered these stacks that allow us to leverage. I can only imagine that there are other potentially chip makers looking at the same, right, and
Uh,
doing the same. But if you
uh-huh.
look at the other, of course, like hyperscalers that we work with already, there are some applications obviously that compete with NVIDIA in this case, right? We're talking about the likes of Google and AWS and Azure and all that. So
Yeah.
when
Mm,
CIOs and enterprises evaluate, they may see that, hey, there's some overlap in some of the applications, but they all have
mm,
their strengths, right? They all have their niche. And therefore, we are also advising our clients in terms of how you make sense of how you invest, right, in the different technology stacks. And some are stronger in some areas, some are weaker in some areas. Like some platform may be stronger in agentic versus the other. The other may be catching up. Some have their own language model, some don't. So it's really about the use cases, and that we are more and more we are seeing that just like in the past, like Leo, you know that there's multi-cloud, right? Uh,
yeah.
uh, Environment and hybrid multi-cloud, and now we are seeing that multi AI stacks kind of environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That companies may not want to get stuck with just one; they want to do a few. Which is why I
Yep.
think if you remember, I talk about my AI refinery. That's this model switchboard, right? Which is why
Mm,
we have that proposition because it's again born out of clients' needs. That clients want to be able to switch to different models and don't want to get locked into a specific product or platform. And so they come to us for advice. They come to us to help them develop architecture to allow them to switch. This is fast evolving, Bill. I mean, as we speak, I think by the time we finish this, some
mm,
competitions may develop new products that
yep.
this is in
Yeah.
lightning speed today, right? Things are
Mm.
moving quickly. Yeah.
Do you see one industry adopting this technology faster than others? What trends do you see in terms of
Yeah,
industry-wide?
interesting you mentioned this because we did a survey of about 1,200 companies globally across different industries, across 19 industries, to understand the impact of GenAI. This is coming from the impact and potential impact of GenAI. Guess which sector topped the charts? Right, banking, insurance. Right, this is like happy to share with you and the audience later on the findings that we have. But 19 industry, imagine that I think the top one is banking, insurance, and all that. So when you unpack that a little bit, you realize that why is that banking and insurance? And the realization is that because this is kind of industries in terms of impact on GenAI on them, is because these are the kind of industries that heavily rely on communications, language to conduct the business. You think about wealth advisory, you think about, right, this process that's very language and communication driven. And therefore, it's understandable that the impact is significant, right? I think there was like up to 60 or 70% of all banking processes can either be fully automated by GenAI or augmented by GenAI. And across the board, if you look at the survey that we did, 40% of our work hours, every single work hours, yours and mine, will be impacted by GenAI as a result. So this is more coming from a survey perspective. And interestingly, some of our early adopters are also banking because they probably see that, right? So we have a bank in Australia, for example, that has embarked on this journey to use GenAI for personalization. Like they are the first, almost the first in the world to use GenAI. That's before even, I always remember that they started doing GenAI even before Microsoft launched the Azure AI services.
Service, yeah.
Yeah, they work directly with OpenAI. That was amazing. That was one of the first. And the other client that we have in North America is that they were the first to move to the architecture to allow them to use GenAI. So I in fact, I saw a lot of early adopters being banking. It just so happened that this thing all coincided, right? That the survey shows that banking has the most opportunities, right? And will have the most impact. And our banking clients are the first among the equals to rise to the occasions. But now we are seeing other industries as well, right? Any other industry, like for example, in Southeast Asia, we have oil and gas clients that realize that, hey, I can use this GenAI to help my engineers to resolve asset maintenance issues, right? We have a very interesting use case whereby we train the language model to understand engineering diagram, to understand the nuances in asset maintenance. And when there's a corrosion in one of the facilities, they can advise even a junior engineer to solve the problem. So that's amazing. So I'm seeing now a widespread use of GenAI across many different industries.
Do you see the scale of adoption changes over time also? Specifically, like moving away from POC to full production rollout, moving away from 50K POC to 500,000 production rollout.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
For sure, you're spot on for sure, right? Because I think the understandably, because the technology is relatively new, right? It is a lot of the technology decision makers and C-suites are taking a bit more guarded approach, right, to experiment with GenAI. But that was 2023, and maybe in some ways is that early part of 2024. But the later part of 2024, we are seeing really the huge wave of really strategically looking at reinventing businesses using GenAI. And this means that companies that are very serious about using GenAI to reinvent, they will orchestrate a strategy, right, and aligning the corporate strategy with the use of AI and GenAI, right? So think about like AI and GenAI as enabling the corporate strategy, right, and being front and center of what they do. So for clients that are looking at scaling, typically they will sit down and have a program of work that is multi-year, right? They develop a clear strategy and identify what are the real AI use cases that move a needle, right? And versus those that are more like table stakes, right? So Accenture, we have this term, right, that is like, whether it is really a table stake or something you do strategically, right? So like installing like Copilot to help you take minutes is not, nice. If you put a box and say, I have GenAI because I installed Copilot. To me, that's, so I think it's really about making those strategy choices and lining up these use cases that have the highest impact, right? Aligning with the priorities of the organization. And that's what we see happening. And if I can put a plug here, Leo, is that oftentimes that companies who do that have the CEOs on board, and some even personally driving this reinvention. right? That's a huge difference, right, Leo, right? Versus like the data science team in the organization trying to pilot and having fun with a new toy, right? Versus the CEOs themselves, right, taking on board this whole reinvention agenda. And we see that, for example, in many of the big clients, like I mentioned, BBVA, for example, is one of them, right? That the CEO themselves are driving it significantly and driving this whole reinvention significantly and taking on board this agenda. And we see that in clients to have the appetite for big scale deployment and reinvention, going beyond just the POCs or pilot.
Mm. Mm. Actually, I've seen this also be one of the key highlights from my early episode with SAP.
Mm.
I think they also seen like if you want to drive real change, the senior exec has to take a high stake in this change program, and I think that make the strategic choice of what to do a key question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need that because you need that financial support. You need the organization support, leadership support to drive change, right? In any organizations, and if I can also add that it's not just about the technology for sure, as you know, right? So in our learning from 1,000 projects that we did earlier, and we realized there were 5 key things that companies need to take away. And one is that I mentioned quickly about taking a value-led approach to this, right? Value-led approach being that you really look at what is your strategic bets versus the table stake, right? And having a roadmap, having the CEO sponsorship. The second part is about fixing your digital core, right? And we talk about AI Refinery, establishing the enterprise cognitive brain and the agentic architecture, and also the underlying data foundation and AI foundation. So that's like, and making it secure. That's the digital core. The third part is really the talent and way of working, right? Because we talk a lot about technologies, and now you have AI agents working alongside with you, right? Or you now expect your employees to drive productivity using AI tools. So change management is often neglected, right? In change management and the way of working has to be in the forefront of the considerations as you look at scaling it. And the fourth, we also mentioned a little bit about AI safety, responsible AI governance. And Leo, if I can say the fifth one, which is, I think, super critical, right? If you look at all these 4 things that you do fine, but at the same time, how do you sustain these innovations? How do you make sure that you keep track of the emerging technologies? Like, I think every few weeks there's a new announcement, maybe not even every few weeks, right? Every week there are many announcements around technology changes and all that, like AI, language models, and blah, blah, blah. And how do you get your organization to be agile enough to respond to all these emerging opportunities? And therefore, the fifth learning we had from the 1,000 projects that we did was sustaining innovations by orchestrating the right operating model, right? And think about GenAI COE, think about setting up an innovation hub to drive these innovations, which some of our clients have started doing, right? And evolving their innovation centers to be able to do that. And which is why I think you probably noticed that we have launched GenAI studios across the world, right? And part of the reason is that it's also to help our clients imagine innovations and sustaining those innovations. So in short, I think, if I summarize a little bit that the learning from 1,000 projects is that these 5 components, right? Being value-led, having a strategy, fixing the digital core, using the AI refinery, focusing on talent, the way of working. I think addressing responsible AI and sustaining this innovation. These are the 5 things that are critical for moving from POCs and pilot to scaling GenAI to reinvent businesses.
That's a great summary. I really like this key takeaway. So I'm going to make sure we have this soundbite. Let's change the gear a little bit. So does Accenture work with startups? Sounds like Accenture only work with clients has a lot of deep pocket.
I think we do work with startups. I think now also a function of, I think, the definition of startups. I think, of course, we work with startups that I guess a combination, but maybe we can characterize this way, right? There are some startups that are quite established, right? Like we work closely, like companies like Contexa, for example. They are not really a startup, but they were a startup before. But now they are now this is a company. I think it's based out of UK, if I'm not mistaken. Initially, that focus on network analytics and customer analytics, and we use the tool for creating like customer network graph and for risk and KYC purposes, for example, right? So this is one example of the startup that we work with. So yes, the answer is that we do work with startups, although selectively in this case. We constantly scan those startups as well, right? And to look at, for example, if there are startups that are highly innovative and progressive and have something that they offer to Accenture, we love to work with them. Yeah.
Not necessarily as a client, but also as a partner, correct?
Yes, correct. As a partner. And a lot of times as a partner, right? That we realize that actually they bring a lot of innovations and ideas, and we work with them on to understand their platform so that we can close the gap, right? That maybe some of the big boys don't have yet, right? And are unable to plug. And so we look at them too, right? And
is there a partner structure in Accenture to systematically onboard and evaluate these startups?
Yeah, I think yes. So we look at startups regularly, in fact, right? Constantly to look at the emerging ones and the interesting ones that like what I mentioned earlier. Of course, some of the more established, I think companies that we partner that will be formally part of our ecosystem, right? And then we form the ecosystem partnership arrangements with them. Of course, you would imagine that we have major partnerships with the likes of hyperscalers and all that. So they are obviously not the startups, but the smaller ones. I think going back to the point that we actually look at them and then look at opportunities to partner, especially those that bring highly innovative ideas and solutions to our clients.
With your investment, are you looking at to acquire any startups?
I think, I guess the inorganic growth has always been part of the agenda, right? So we will grow organically and inorganically. So not startup per se. I think we'll look at every opportunities out there to allow us to strengthen, our ability to respond to clients. Yeah.
Okay.
So the short answer is that, yes, we are looking at the acquisitions and all that, but not specifically acquiring AI startups. We are a services company, right?
Yeah.
So we will look at companies out there that can complement us.
More service-driven companies will be to your appetite. Okay. All right. And if we're looking to the future, as a leader in this space, what excites you the most about the potential of generative AI? You obviously talk about the new type of experience. Are there any specific project or innovation in Accenture that you're very passionate about?
Yeah. So in fact, I think I'm most passionate about how AI can transform the front office, right? This is really help drive growth, because I mentioned about how AI was used for productivity gain and so on and so forth. But as I mentioned, the front office, the way we evolve customer experience, right? The way we drive growth, I think that's, to me, is extremely exciting, especially when we lay on top the whole agentic architecture to it, right? And I was super excited when I saw that, if I can give you the example that I mentioned about how we use agentic architecture internally within Accenture for marketing and communications, and we created different agents. Like there's a research agent, there's a strategist agent. You can imagine that. And there was like huddling that the agents are talking to each other. Strategize, develop the strategy and output from marketing. Leo, that was something that a lot of us have not seen in the past. Right? Yeah. This is all happening, right? It's like the agents are communicating with each other, right? Strategizing to accomplish a goal, right? Not just a task, but based on the intention and the instruction given by human, they were trying to accomplish a goal, not just doing prompting, but they are like communicating among themselves. And imagine that being applied to the front office. imagine that changing the way we interact. That's, I think, Leo, that's the most exciting part. And that obviously that's part of my job scope as well in the future. And now in the future, that what I'm going to focus on. And to me, we haven't even scratched the surface. That's right. The growth is tremendous.
If this AI agent become more prominent, what does it leave us? People company like Accenture with 700,000 people. Are we looking at the company can finally to come down in the size, or this will continue to grow?
I think like any technology, Leo, I think we will end up expecting more from human. Right. I like to use this analogy that the calculator doesn't take away the need to calculate, right? Right. It's like now we have like a supercomputer. It just means that I think there's more expectation, right? The same human, right, is expected to do more, right? I think that's why we hear people talk about, right? Human with AI will replace human without AI, right?
I'll say that again.
I think human with AI will replace human without AI, right? Because if you are irrelevant in the future, then you don't know how to harness the technology. Then, of course, that kind of workforce are the workforce that will be irrelevant in the future, right? But the workforce that are relevant and will will stand the test of time, right? In this era, and we have massive training effort internally, right, to upskill our workforce, right? We want to make sure that Accenture, we are really training highly skilled talent. I think we have shown the public that we are moving to 40,000 to 80,000, and we want, in fact, it's mandatory for every employee in Accenture to go through AI training. There's a mandatory X number of hours that we have to go through because no one should say they don't understand AI, right? And this is how massive it is. So all this is so that we prepare the human with AI, right? Because human with AI replace human without AI. So to me, I think, calculator doesn't take away the need to calculate. So I think it's like we still have to.
100%. 100%. Any advice that you will give to the C-levels who are in the midst of AI transformation as a final closing remark?
No, my closing remark is that I really urge that all C-suite to look at GenAI not just a technology, right, but a reinvention opportunity, right? The technologies is right? The time is right to be exploited to reinvent enterprises so that you can leapfrog competition. Think about what digital did to companies and how companies become digital and therefore pull away from competition. The same now is happening now. This is the window of opportunities. Now, the risk of not doing anything is huge. The cost of not doing anything is very significant because every companies that sit on the laurels and rest on the laurels and will realize that they will be very quickly disrupted by this wave of. It is critical, therefore, that the C-suite understand, the boards understand the implications, and embark on this reinvention journey and beyond, like what you said, beyond just piloting, beyond just experimenting, but really look at this strategically as part of the corporate strategy. That's my closing remark.
Thank you so much. I hope all the C-levels will hear your voice and hear your insight, and all come to Accenture to say, let's go.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With that, thank you very much, Joon-Seong, for joining our show. It's been a very insightful conversation. I hope our audience found it useful. And if you do, please do subscribe to our AI Business Asia podcast channels. Thank you so much.